Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about what may be going on for 3D Mario. Over these last couple of years, many have thought that 3D Mario would be the launch title for Nintendo Switch 2. We've had different journalists and news sites reporting that 3D Mario most likely would be the launch title. Yet here we are, a week removed from the first big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and it has been confirmed that the launch title on June 5th for Switch 2 is Mario Kart World. But then on top of that, following in July, we are getting Donkey Kong Bananza. And Donkey Kong Bananza, many believe, is likely being made by at least part of the 3D Mario team, the team responsible for Super Mario Odyssey back in 2017. So with all of this in mind, what does that mean for 3D Mario? Could it actually be years away? I don't think so. I think 3D Mario is still very close. Not as close as perhaps what a lot of us would have wanted, but it's still very close, and Nintendo may have plans for this game having to do with Mario's 40th anniversary, which would be later this year. And there's also a rumor about 3D Mario for Switch 2 that has continually gained more and more credibility, which also, by the way, comes from the same source that predicted this exact outcome, that it would not be 3D Mario to be the launch title or even being shown off by this point, but what we've gotten so far, Mario Kart and Donkey Kong Bananza. So let's dive further into what actually may be going on here. But before we do, let me mention that I have a goal to hit 50,000 subscribers by the time the Switch 2 launches, so if you find yourself enjoying my content, I would appreciate your subscription. And here's a brief message about these protective gaming cases from both Supcase and Mumba for, yes, the Nintendo Switch 2. I got the opportunity to try out these cases and see how they fit on the Switch 2, and I gotta say, they feel comfortable, it appears secure, and I can rest easy knowing with these cases on there that my Switch 2 will be protected. But I also appreciated how on the sides you can actually move off the flap to detach the magnetically connected Switch 2 Joy-Con controllers. But perhaps what surprises me the most about these cases is that they've been designed to actually fit inside the dock when attached to the Switch 2. So make sure to check out these cases ahead of the Switch 2's release on June 5th, and the links will be in the description below. So first, I would like to go over these different codename leaks that we got last year from a leaker who has a great deal of credibility but can no longer be found on social media. And this person is Midori. And as I brought up before, they've done things that we do not agree with, but their information they have provided has continually proven to be reliable. So last year, we got 8 different codenames about different Nintendo projects, and 4 of those 8 seemingly have already been confirmed. So the 4 that have been confirmed so far, or at least that I'm going to argue, 2 of which we know for 100% certainty, and that's Banquet, which we now know is Super Mario Party Jamboree, and the other is Edward, which we now know is The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And because we knew about these codenames before announcement, we were able to predict that there would be a new 2D Zelda last year and a new Super Mario Party game. Not just a new Mario Party game, but a new Super Mario Party game to follow the Mario Party game that came out back in 2018. But on top of that, there is another codename, Yu King O, which implied that there would be a remaster for Breath of the Wild. Which, by the way, we now have confirmed, Breath of the Wild and also Tears of the Kingdom have been remastered with their Switch 2 editions and will be launch titles for the Nintendo Switch 2. So that is 3 of the 8 different codenames confirmed. We already knew that Yu King was the codename for Breath of the Wild, the O implied that there would be a Switch 2 version. And the 4th of the 8 codenames that I believe has basically been confirmed is Silver Star. Now, the thing about Silver Star is that people did not know what it was, not even Midori. Taking a look at this screen cap here, you see that there was talk for 2 different Nintendo codename projects. One was SP Red, which we'll speak on in a moment, and the other is Silver Star. But when I saw this, I believe that I had figured it out about a year ago, and that was that Silver Star was going to be a 3D Donkey Kong game being made by the Odyssey team, because Mario Odyssey, its codename, was Red Star, Red having to do with Mario, Star having to do with Odyssey. So a game being codenamed Silver Star implies that they're using some variant of the Odyssey engine, but not for a game having to do with Mario, but something that might relate to Silver. And guess what? Super Donkey Kong is silver and is also a gorilla, which might remind people of the silverback gorilla. And that was a core theory behind what I thought the codename would be, but there was more beyond than just that. We had different reports and rumors that we had heard about a Donkey Kong game being made by the Odyssey team over the many years. And I myself had heard about a Donkey Kong project being in the works, and we waited so long to see this game finally, but I believed that Silver Star would be 3D Donkey Kong, and now here we are. We've seen the reveal for Donkey Kong Bananza, we see all the UI elements, we see how it plays and functions, and it seems very obviously to have been made by at least some element of the team behind Mario Odyssey, and so almost certainly, this is Project Silver Star. It's not 100% confirmed, we'll have to wait until we see the codename for the game, but it seems really likely. And so with that in mind, the credibility of these leaks has been proven, I would say, or at least it's stronger than ever before, but there are 4 others. One is Anna, which we believe to be a follow-up to Switch Sports, another is Spiral, which we believe to be a follow-up for the Splatoon series, another is Legacy, the next title being made by Monolith Soft, a new IP, and then there's SP Red, which clearly is the next 3D Mario. And so the good news about these leaks, yes, they tipped us off to 3D Donkey Kong being available fairly early on for Switch 2, and while the existence of Silver Star or Donkey Kong Bananza on its own might lead you to think that, oh, maybe 3D Mario is kind of far off, but if we were to believe part of this, then the other part of this also includes Project SP Red, which is a codename for the next 3D Mario, meaning that Nintendo is hard at work at this game, and I personally think that when it comes to all these codenames, they are for projects that are not too far off. All these codenames came out about a year ago, a little bit less actually, and 4 of the 8 have already basically been confirmed. I think if we give it another year, all 8 will likely have been confirmed. That's my prediction. And so yes, from that perspective alone, I think, yeah, 3D Mario probably not too far off. But of course, just looking at the history of Nintendo, 3D Mario is always available early on. Not even 3D Mario, but just a mainline Mario game when we go to the consoles before the 3D era. Of course, there have been times where Mario isn't in that first year of the console, but by the end of the second year, it's definitely there. Take a look at Nintendo GameCube, or the Wii U, or the Nintendo Wii. So I think at the latest, when we look at things from a historical perspective, the longest we're going to have to wait to see 3D Mario release would be holiday 2026. But I also think there's plenty of reason to think that it could still be coming sooner. So let's consider this, for example, going back to the whole Silver Star thing. The Mario Odyssey team, after Mario Odyssey, which came out in the first year of Switch 1, did not put out any other full-on game for the rest of the generation. And it's been a long generation. Mario Odyssey came out October of 2017, here we are, April 2025, it's been 7.5 years. And yes, there were rumors that the Odyssey team was working on Donkey Kong early on to the Switch generation, and now it seems like that's basically been confirmed with Donkey Kong Bananza. But 7.5 years, especially using an already established engine from Mario Odyssey, doesn't lead to just one game in Donkey Kong Bananza. I think there's got to be more. Now, maybe both these games aren't entirely ready, which is why we're only seeing Donkey Kong Bananza now, but I gotta think that a 3D Mario project can't be that far off. This studio has had plenty of time to work on more than just one game. And by the way, I think the same logic applies to the Mario Kart team. They put out ARMS in that first year Switch 1, and they didn't put out any other big full-on new games. I think there might be more than just Mario Kart World, or Mario Kart World is just such a big game that they've been working on it for 7 straight years. Or actually closer to 8 straight years. But let's consider what Nintendo's announced for Switch 2 so far. We have Mario Kart World, then Donkey Kong Bananza, and we're getting some updates for Kirby and Mario Party Jamboree, although I wouldn't consider those full-on new games, so I don't think they should count as one major release for a particular month. But then we also have the Switch 2 editions for Pokemon Legends EA and Metroid Prime 4, which also, yes, are Switch 1 titles. So I think also you have to question just how significant are these games for Switch 2. I think they are significant, but perhaps not as significant as games like Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bananza, which places more stress on Nintendo having more games come out this year for Switch 2, and yet the other games we have are Drag Drive, which looks like a pretty smallish kind of game, not a full-on major release either. And then there's Kirby Air Riders, which is slated for this year, and also Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is only slated for this winter. There's a pretty good chance it comes out early next year, still in winter, and not this year. They never said 2025. And I also forgot to mention some smaller Switch 2 launch titles. We have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with their Switch 2 editions. These are simple remasters for games that most people already have. And then we also have Welcome Tour, which, to be honest with you, I don't think is that big of a game, and I don't think it's going to do that well either. Probably should have been a pack-in. And so I think when you take a look at that lineup, I'm going to argue it's actually a little light. It is a lot of games, but when you think about how this is supposed to be a lineup to push the beginning of a new generation, I feel like there's a pretty good chance that in either a Summer Direct or a September Direct, there will be a few more announcements for this year. I'm not saying they need a lot more, but I think they need a little bit more. Now, is that a little bit more the next 3D Mario announcement? I'm not so sure. But it is something I'm considering, and it has me thinking about when we're going to see the next big Nintendo Directs. And I actually think there's a pretty good chance that the next big Nintendo Direct, I'm not talking about game-specific Directs like the one for Mario Kart World in just about a week, but like a overall general Direct telling us about more games coming to Switch 2, I wouldn't be surprised if that Direct happens in late June, as Nintendo has been doing over the last few years anyways. And the reason why I think so outside of just the recent last few years is because Switch 2 comes out June 5th, and they're going to want to make more announcements to talk more about Switch 2 to keep the hype going, continue to market the console, and give us more reasons to be excited for it and its future. And so it's going to mean that there's going to be a presentation where they announce more things for not just 2025, but for 2026. And that would also be a great time to give Donkey Kong Bananza a really big push going into July. And then of course I also am thinking that there will probably need to be your typical September Nintendo Direct. I think this would also be a big one because yes, again, this is the beginning of the generation. If there's a time to have the biggest, best presentations Nintendo can offer, it is this year. So I think there are actually multiple opportunities this year where Nintendo is going to reveal some very big releases to come out for Switch 2, if not in 2025, sometime in 2026. Which leads me into my next point, which is having to do with Mario's 40th anniversary. Typically, Nintendo celebrates this in September, which is when Mario Bros. Initially came out, and it would be 40 years ago this September, and every 5 years, they do a bigger deal with their anniversary celebrations. This isn't an annual thing, this is an every 5 years thing. And back in 2020, they had a pretty significant 35th anniversary Direct. And so considering what's going on right now, we're getting Mario Kart World. That's a very big deal. It is a Mario property. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of announcement surrounding Mario Kart World having to do with the 40th anniversary come this September. But that's not going to be enough to announce like some DLC or something like that. They are going to need to have more. And perhaps a lot more. We know the Mario movie, the next one, is coming out April of next year. And so would not be surprised if, similar to the 35th anniversary celebrations, they have announcements that yes are for that particular year, but they also bleed in to the early parts of next year. Like in the case for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, that came out February of 2021. And so the movie is clearly very close there, and we already talked about how the Super Mario Bros. Movie had a tremendous impact on Mario game sales, and I absolutely believe that Nintendo's going to try and replicate that to some extent this time around as well. So yeah, I think the Mario movie might boost Mario Kart World sales and vice versa, but I think there will also be more. Maybe some smaller things, maybe we see something like a Mario Galaxy 2, those are all small possibilities. But ultimately, I think the main thing they want to show is 3D Mario. So if we don't see 3D Mario teased this summer to come out this holiday, then I think there's a very good chance in September, when they really get into Mario anniversary plans, they finally tease 3D Mario to be a big release in 2026. And if they're going to tease it in September, then I think there's a pretty good chance we don't have to wait all the way until the holiday of 2026 for this game to come out. They may want 3D Mario to be the fiscal year closing game. There is a pretty decent history of Nintendo putting out significant games to close out the fiscal year. Look at Breath of the Wild, look at Animal Crossing New Horizons, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Putting out a 3D Mario as part of the 40th anniversary celebrations while in the thick of Mario movie marketing might be the ultimate storm. But let's now dive into the rumor situation for Mario here. So a few days before the Direct, we had a few different people that were saying that 3D Mario might not be part of the Switch 2 Direct, and that it might be Donkey Kong instead, including Nash Weedle. Here he says, "I'll tell you what's happening on the dark side of the internet. It's been said for days that the new 3D Mario won't be coming this year, but Donkey Kong will be the star. I can't tell you about 3D Mario, but I've already told you about Donkey Kong and I'm looking forward to seeing it." So here Nash Weedle is saying that 3D Mario isn't coming out this year, and a Donkey Kong game is actually going to be shown very soon. And that's been confirmed. Donkey Kong Bananza is coming out this year and very soon. Now, technically, 3D Mario could still come out this year, but I do understand how at this point it seems a little unlikely. Now, some people don't like trusting Nash Weedle, but here they got Donkey Kong right and said that 3D Mario wouldn't be coming out this year. That goes against what most people would expect, right? So to me, this leads me to believe that they do know something, and they already have a history of leaking other things. Some common examples I like to bring up: Mario and Luigi Brothership, Metroid Dread. But they even got another interesting leak correct. So they had said back in October of 2024 that there would be Elden Ring coming out for Switch 2 with some sort of special edition. And that part has been confirmed. We are getting Elden Ring Tarnished Edition for Switch 2. And so Nash Weedle has been getting different interesting leaks correct. Recently, they put out another leak that's quite interesting, that Sea of Thieves, Psychonauts, Doom Dark Ages, Indiana Jones, Ninja Gaiden, Hellblade, Call of Duty, and Age of Empires are all coming to Switch 2. Seems very believable. A lot of Microsoft games are on the way. I think that makes a lot of sense. Perhaps we see confirmations of these games in the summer. But the big rumor that has gained credibility over this time, as we've seen Nash Weedle get more and more things right, is something he said about Mario a while back. This was back in November 26th of 2023. Leak Express: would you like to see our mustachioed hero visit worlds from other Nintendo sagas in the next Mario 3D? Well, it seems that Nintendo's already experimented with this, and it could become a reality at some point. Can you imagine Mario traveling through Hyrule or piloting the R-Wing? So, I was skeptical of this rumor at first, but since Nash Weedle continues to get things right, I have to take a look at this and consider, maybe there's something to it. When I saw the whole Donkey Kong rumor thing, I doubted it, but I was like, nah, 3D Mario makes way more sense first. I think Donkey Kong's on the way, but I thought Nintendo would save Donkey Kong for later. But it looks like it's the other way around. So, yeah, maybe this is true. Oftentimes, the truth is stranger than fiction. The same way how we're getting a new 3D Donkey Kong game early on as opposed to 3D Mario, maybe Nintendo has a little bit of an unusual plan here. And I do want to point out that I understand that people don't like the idea of a 3D Mario visiting a whole bunch of different Nintendo franchises for its main entry. But until we see exactly how Nintendo would be doing this, I think we should reserve our judgments. I remember the rumors that Nintendo would be doing a hybrid console before the Switch 1 was revealed. And part of the reason why I didn't believe those rumors at first was because I just didn't think it made that much sense. It didn't seem like a good idea. When I would see the Eurogamer report and them talking about this concept, it seemed kind of dull and dumb. But once I saw that Switch 1 teaser, and I saw how Nintendo was selling it, and I saw the overall vision and the execution, I realized that this was an amazing idea. And so basically, when it comes to this 3D Mario rumor, if it is true, which yes, it's a rumor, take it with a grain of salt until confirmed, but if it is true, it might be way more amazing than some people want to give it credit for. Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bananza and Metroid Prime 4 Switch 2 Edition, by the way, are all blowing me away. And those are just the first year titles. I imagine the second year titles will be even more impressive, and it's looking like that may be 3D Mario, but hopefully we at least get a quick glimpse of this game in this year, perhaps to celebrate a little bit of Mario's 40th anniversary. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.